We have two people from our company in the chat. One is Lena and one is Siddhant. So you can call him Sid. And he and Lena have Cloudologic written in front of their names, right? So in case you have any questions, you can actually go ahead and ask the questions to them because of course, I would not be able to see the chat window in case the screen is shared, which is now. And I think it's already time. We can go ahead and get started. So as far as the session is concerned, somebody told me actually they wanted to understand and know what is the topic on the webinar. The topic on the webinar is AI on Azure. And of course, everybody knows Azure is a cloud. So before we go ahead and start the session, I would first of all like to welcome everybody to the session. And the session is approximately for 1 hour. And in this 1 hour, we'll be talking about AI, artificial intelligence on Azure, which is our Microsoft cloud. A few ground rules. I would not be able to answer any questions when we are in the session because I cannot see the screen. So I would request everybody to please keep your questions for the end. The session is actually for 45 minutes, I would say. And 15 minutes I keep for asking questions, right? So this is how we will go. Now, before we go ahead and start, I would quickly like to go ahead and give you my introduction. So my name is Anuj, as you see in the chat window as well. My total overall experience is approximately 21 years. Guys, can you please stop sharing the video? Yeah, I'm working as an instructor and a cloud architect. And of course, I have been guiding a lot of people in cloud technology. I'm Microsoft certified trainer. I'm certified on AWS and of course certified on GCP. In case anybody wants to connect with me, this is my LinkedIn profile. So you can go ahead and connect with me in here. And I will be more than happy to answer any questions if I can on any of these technologies. So of course, just to give you a brief on what all technologies I work on. So if you have any questions, you can ask. So I work on AI. I work on, guys, can you please stop your videos? Yeah, I work on AI. I work on data science. Definitely I work on cloud. So this is about me, and without wasting any time, we will go ahead and get started with the webinar. So the webinar, what we are talking about in here, or the topic, what we are talking about in here is artificial intelligence on Azure, right? So Azure, like everybody knows, is a cloud. Everybody knows what is Azure. So Azure talks about a cloud, which we are familiar with, and we have been using Azure since long. Almost 2012, Azure came in market. And since then, we are using Azure for different services. So as far as cloud is concerned, we have IaaS, we have PaaS, we have SaaS. So these three different categories in which we can go ahead and divide my cloud. So we talk about infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service, and then of course, with all these services, we talk about different things, what we can do. And AI is actually a part of platform as a service, wherein we get different things which we can go ahead and use and then develop applications which are much easier to develop now. So just to give you an example, we can go ahead and develop my bot services. We can actually use bot services and develop chat clients, right? Which we used to develop previously, and we had to go ahead and write a huge set of code over there, right? But anyways, just to go ahead and start with AI. So first things first, we talk about the Azure landscape, the Microsoft Azure landscape for artificial intelligence. So first things first, on the top, you see the application. So application talks about the application, what we build using these services and using the complete Microsoft landscape. So there are a lot of different services which we will talk about during the course of time. We will talk about cognitive services. We'll talk about bot framework. We will talk about knowledge. Now, of course, when you talk about the cognitive services, the bot framework, the knowledge, we talk about these all services kind of it's more like a blend of using each and every service and then creating an application which you can use. Now, just to give you an example where we can use AI is, let's take an example of your office, right? So in your office, you have a help desk, and in the help desk, you normally call to raise a ticket, right? So using my AI, I can actually go ahead and develop a bot which can help me out to raise a ticket, right? So this will reduce the help desk cost, right? So in this example, which I'm giving you, I'm talking about my bot framework. I'm talking about my cognitive services. Then comes Databricks, and we also talk about my machine learning services. So when I talk about my Databricks and machine learning services, we talk about artificial intelligence with my platform and infrastructure along with the tools what we have. Guys, can you please stop the sharing of your video? Right, so we talk about machine learning. Now, just to give you an example of how machine learning works, the idea is that when you talk about machine learning, somebody sharing the video, let me just stop the video. I don't know why you guys are sharing the videos. I requested everybody to stop the videos. I don't know if you don't understand English or what is the problem. Vajat, can you please stop the video? And if you guys keep doing this, it wastes a lot of time. So I would request everybody to please stop the video. Okay, thank you. So we were talking about creating the AI. So I was talking about machine learning services. We talk about models, framework, and infrastructure. And along with the cognitive services, we use these services to go ahead and develop something which is an artificial intelligence solution. So I gave you an example of the chatbot, which I can go ahead and create in my office network. Now, the other thing which I can talk about is my chatbot can actually go ahead and learn the way we ask questions, and then based on that, it can actually derive the answers and then give you the answers. And of course, as far as my Databricks is concerned, Databricks is more like my platform in which we go ahead and kind of save the information, or that's more of a data thing what we talk about. Now, all these solutions what we have, we can actually go ahead and define these solutions and see these solutions or get these solutions from the AI solutions gallery. So you get the solution from the gallery, use my Databricks, use my machine learning, and use these cognitive services or bot framework or knowledge, and then you go ahead and develop your application. So I already gave you an example of the application, the type of application which can be developed using my AI landscape, or let's say the services what we have in AI. So there are a lot of things what you can do. This is just one example which I gave you. In next slide, we will also talk about few of the known use cases, how we can use AI. Now, talking about what all different services are already using AI, right? So when you talk about Microsoft framework, you know, Microsoft has a lot of different applications which they are running across the globe, right? They have a lot of services which they have got. And then of course you can pay for these services, you can buy these services. Office 365 is a SaaS product, but then still it uses AI within that. Then you have Dynamics 365. Again, this is from Microsoft. This uses AI. Then you have my Swift key. Again, you use AI with this. You have Skype. Everybody knows Skype. Skype is very famous, right? And I'm sure you have been working with Skype since long. So Microsoft acquired Skype a few years back. Then the replacement for Skype for Business is my Teams. So we have been working with Teams. And then you have my calendar help. There are services for customer service and support. So there are a lot of different services which you can actually go ahead and design and develop using my AI application, right? Now, services which I included, of course, we did talk about this in the second slide, wherein I was talking about, I'll actually show you. So I was talking about my cognitive services, and I was talking about my bot framework. Then we talk about this one. In this, we talk about my cognitive services and bot framework. So these are my AI services. So we'll talk about my cognitive services. We'll see what all different options we have and how do we work with them. Now, when you talk about Microsoft Cognitive Services, it's a huge set of tools. So we have tools for vision. Then you have tools for speech. Then you have tools for language understanding. You have tools for knowledge. You have tools for searching the information. And you have tools for detecting in case there's a problem. So when you talk about vision, so there are tools in AI or cognitive services wherein we talk about faces to feelings. So in case you have a happy face and you go ahead and upload the picture, so it will be able to go ahead and detect whether the face is happy or not. So this is just an example. Then we talk about speech. So we hear and speak to the users by filtering their voice again. So this is another example. We will talk about text to speech when we talk about speech. So that is another example what we talk about speech. Then you have my language. So language understanding, or LUIS, is something what we talk about in here. So when you talk about my language understanding talks about how the computer understands your language. How do you speak, and how does the computer know that what you're talking about? There are a lot of different products what we talk about in market for language understanding. We talk about Cortana, we talk about Alexa, we talk about my Google Assistant. So they all work with speech and language. Again, that's a part of my Microsoft Cognitive Services. So the idea is now you can use Microsoft Cognitive Services to create these kind of applications, and you don't have to actually go ahead and design a solution by writing a complete set of code, right? So we don't talk about these issues anymore, or these things anymore. You can just go ahead and use Lewis. You can just go ahead and use the speech API what we have, and then you can just go ahead and design and develop your application. Then we talk about knowledge. So knowledge talks about mapping the complex information and data in order to solve a specific task. Then we talk about my search. So, search is a very big thing these days. The amount of data what we talk about is huge, right? So we have millions and billions of let's say services across the globe, and then the amount of data what they save is huge, right? So now when you talk about these millions and billions of services what we have, and the amount of data what we have, so we need a service to search that information from that database, maybe you can say, right? So we have my search service what we talk about. Then you talk about the detection of any problem. I can give you an example of Facebook, right? So if Facebook wants to detect who is putting comments which are not allowed, so we will use AI for that, right? And this is a part of Microsoft's cognitive services. So this is more like a framework what we talk about, and everything is a part of my cognitive services. So we'll see on the next slide which all services which are there for cognitive services we can use, right? So as far as my vision is concerned, we talk about using my video indexer. So it can index my video, and then it will go ahead and show you the results, right? The best example I can give you is my YouTube, right? So it indexes the video. Then you have my computer vision. So it can actually go ahead and detect, it can go ahead and detect in terms of, it can detect a smiling face, maybe, for example. Then you have face recognition. So face recognition is an example. For example, let's say I want to go ahead and design a lock, right, wherein it will see your face and unlock, right? So I can go ahead and design such kind of application with my cognitive services. Then you have my emotion detector. You have my content moderator. So content moderator is the one which I gave you an example of, wherein I talk about my Facebook, right? Please don't write on my screen. So I talk about my Facebook, right? So when I talk about my Facebook, the idea is I want to go ahead and search for content, which, give me 1 second. I can actually go ahead and disable this. I'm actually not able to see. Anyways, so I gave you an example of Facebook. So wherein I want to go ahead and search for a specific text, which is kind of not allowed. So in that case, I can go ahead and use the content moderator service, which is a part of Vision. Then you have custom visions, what we have. Now, as far as my speech is concerned, when you talk about speech, we talk about my speech recognition. That is one of the things what it can go ahead and do with my cognitive services. So the idea is it can detect who is talking, what exactly people are talking, and then it will go ahead and change that to text so that you can save it, right? So that is one of the examples of my speech recognition. Then you have my Bing speech again. So this is something wherein you search something in Bing and it will go ahead and tell you what exactly is the result. Then you have my custom speech, my translator. So we have been using Google Translator since long, right? Now, if you want to go ahead and design a service, which is pretty similar to my Google Translator, you can actually go ahead and use the translators service, which is a part of Microsoft's cognitive services. And then you can just go ahead and work with that. I see a lot of people are typing something in the chat, right? So guys, if you have questions, please keep the questions for the end. So that's my humble request. Now, the next thing what we talk about is language. So as far as my language is concerned, again, there is a example of my Bing spell checker. So when you talk about my Bing spell checker will actually go ahead and check the spellings for me. Then you have my language understanding. So language understanding is the same thing what we did talk about. So we talk about my Alexa, I talk about my Cortana, I talk about my Siri. So all these applications which are running on your cell phones and devices, they actually work on speech, they work on language understanding. So there are a lot of things what we have been already working with, and then we can have more options. We can create our own applications to work with this. Then the other thing what we talk about is knowledge. So when you talk about knowledge, we talk about my Q&A maker, which is a part of bot services. So the idea is you have a huge set of questions and answers generally on the website, right? So people go to the website, they have questions like, how do I do this, right? So if you have questions like, how do I do this? You can actually go ahead and get the answer using my bot, right? So you don't have you don't have to actually let a human sit over there and answer the question. So this is a part of my Q&A maker. Then you have my Azure search. So I already talked about Azure search, but then again, I would just take 2 minutes and explain you what exactly I can do with my Azure search. So we have a huge amount of database or data, right, in a database, right? Now, these days we talk about NoSQL databases. So if you have huge amount of data, and you want to go ahead and search the results from that huge amount of data, then you will talk about my Azure search, right? So that is another part of my cognitive services. And in case you want to go ahead and use the search service with any of your on-prem service as well, you can actually go ahead and use that. Then when you talk about my search, we have my Bing entity search, you have my Bing auto suggest, we have my Bing search, you have my visual search, you have my custom search. So these are few of the tools what we talk about when we talk about my search. And then you have the detection, normally detection, so which talks about detecting what exactly I am looking for. So if you give this a set of data, it will actually find out what you're looking for and what is not looking normal to you. I mean, you can actually, of course, go ahead and set up a query over there. So these all things are a part of my cognitive services. And of course, all these services you can actually go ahead and use within Azure in order to go ahead and design and develop an application, which does not require to write a huge set of code just to go ahead and get a service in place, right? So these are a few of the benefits what we talk about when we talk about my cognitive services. And of course, I will talk about a few examples in the next slide where you can use. Now, these are the real world examples of what you can use and where you can use. So as far as my computer vision is concerned, so you see, if you upload a picture, it will try to find out and categorize. It will see if it's adult or not. It will see the colors. It will see the accent color. So in this example, I uploaded the image. It kind of analyzes the image and then gives me the information on what exactly I have for the image, right? or what is the image about, maybe you can say, right? Now, when you talk about speech, so give me directions to the nearest local branch is an example to my speech. And the best example which everybody uses in everyday life is my Google Assistant along with Google Maps, right? So you go ahead and search something in Google Maps, and then you can speak, where do you want to go? And this is one of the services which is there in Microsoft Azure, and you can use this as a part of cognitive services. So you can kind of build an application which is like Google Map and then implement speech and search in that. Then the other example of cognitive service is my language. So when you talk about my language, we can talk to, let's say, Siri, wherein it will go ahead and play different messages from the calls which have been recorded. So this is my natural language processing. So I'll give you an example of language actually. I have Cortana on my machine. So if I want to go ahead and speak something, it's actually turned off. That's why it's not recognizing my voice. If I do this, see, so it's listening to me, and then based on this, it will go ahead and give me answers if I'm asking something. So if I say, what is the weather like? So it will give me the answers. Then as far as my knowledge is concerned, again, this is an example of my bot services, what we use. So we have Q&A pair of the site. So you can upload your questions and answers as a part of bot service, and it will go ahead and fetch the answers and then give the results. So this is something what we do as a part of knowledge. Then apart from this, you have my search. So search is useful for searching the information from the web, right? And then the best example which I can give you is my Bing search. So if I open this browser and let's say I want to search for, so let's search for Google. Beyond Microsoft and search for Google. So if I want to go ahead and do this, so it's fetching the information and then getting me the results of Google, right? Now, if I want to go ahead and search, let's say Yahoo. Okay, so again, it's searching the information and getting the results, right? Now, if you want to go ahead and implement this kind of search in your application, so you can do that using my cognitive services, right? So you can get the information using my search. You can use bot services using my Q&A maker and my knowledge. You can use language, you can use speech, you can use vision. So this creates more like a package for you, which you can actually go ahead and implement in your application, which will add additional functionality within the application, right? So in other words, just to give you an example, if you want to go ahead and let's say implement, let's say you have a HR system and you want to go ahead and implement speech or vision in that. You can actually go ahead and do that. Vision is when somebody uploads a picture of an employee, right? The HR manager uploads the picture of an employee. So he, or let's say the application should be intelligent enough to categorize that particular picture and then find out where exactly this person is from, right? So it can go ahead and categorize, it can check if that person is a male or female. So this is an example of vision, right? Now, as far as speech is concerned and language is concerned, so along with speech and language, I mean, if you add speech and language, you can have an application which is more like Cortana or Siri or Google Assistant built into your application itself, right? So this is an example of the real world applications, what we have. And of course, there are a lot of possibilities which are there. And of course, it's this thing has a great future, maybe I can say, because a lot of people are already moving to machine learning and people are moving to AI, right? So there are a lot of projects coming across. Now, talking about different services, as far as my services are concerned, the first service what I would talk about is my Vision API. Now, these are the things what my Vision API can do. So my Vision API can work with my computer vision, and the computer vision is more like a service provider that you can go ahead and access. And this will go ahead and process my images and return the information. I have few examples also for the Vision API, which I will show you in the next slide. Then you have the custom vision service. So as far as the custom vision service is concerned, so this will allow you to go ahead and build custom image classifiers. So if you want to go ahead and upload your image and you want to go ahead and classify that image, let's say you want to classify the image as an animal, or you want to go ahead and classify the image as a human, or you want to go ahead and classify the image as an object. Let's say you upload that as, if you upload a car, maybe, so it will go ahead and classify the image as a car, right? So all these things you can actually go ahead and classify using my computer vision API or the vision API, right? Then you have the face API. So face API basically provides access to advanced face algorithms and enabling face attribute detection and recognition. So the same example which I gave you, if I have an HR system wherein I have the computer vision API, which has my face API. So when I upload something, upload a picture, or the HR manager uploads a picture, the application should be intelligent enough to classify whether it's a man or it's a girl, or maybe it's a woman. So all these things are possible using my face API. Then you have something called my video indexer. So my video indexer enables you to extract my insights from the video and then use that as content, right? So I gave you example of YouTube. I gave you an example which I did not mention before, but Netflix also can go ahead and do that. So these are few of the examples of my vision API. I have few demos and few examples, but let me just open the link. So to open the link, I will stop sharing for 1 minute. And then I will go ahead and open these links one by one and show you a few things in here. If anybody has any questions, I clearly mentioned we will take the questions at the end because I cannot see the chat window. Okay, so these are a few of the examples of computer vision API. So you see, this is what we have. So based on the image, it will go ahead and get the object details and it will go ahead and tag it, right? So in this example, you see it's able to tag the train. Now, just to give you an example, I'll change the image. And you see this is person, confidence level is this. So this all is being done with the computer vision API. And this is a built-in service in Azure, and you can just go ahead and use this as a service. Now, if you see this, it will tag, of course. Everybody knows this guy, he's Satya Nadella. So you see, we can go ahead and put a text, Satya wearing a suit and a tie. So if you see this, tags, so JPEG format, dimension. So all these things are automatically done using the computer vision API. If you have a link, if you have an image URL, you can actually go ahead and put the URL in here and you'll see that it's able to get the information from there. Then you have another example. This is a laptop. So you see rectangle, object, table, confidence level, house plant. So it's able to get the plant. Okay. So this is an example of the computer vision API. Now, so this is another example. So these are more like videos, what we talk about. So as far as these videos are concerned, I will share the links and you can watch the video. Then there is another example wherein we can check what breed is that. So if I go ahead and check on this, so it will go ahead and kind of give me the details on the dog. This is another one. So it gives me the detail of this dog. I see the picture. Then this is another example of what I can talk about. So this is using the photo. So it can go ahead and get the information, get the details on this. So you see, it's able to detect the age. And this is an example of AI again, right? Anyways, so these are a few of the examples of AI, and we have been working with these technologies since long now. So in case you want to go ahead and check these examples, I will share the link. I mean, actually, you'll already get the link in the chat when you go ahead and watch this video again. Now, talking about the second service, which is my speech. So as far as my speech is concerned, again, this is an API service which we use, and there are a lot of things what we can talk about as far as the speech API is concerned. So when you talk about the speech API, we talk about text to speech, text to text, and speech translation. So these are the few services what we talk about. So when you talk about text to speech, again, so if you have kind of maybe a text message and you want to go ahead and convert that to speech. So this is something what we go ahead and use. Then you have speech to text. So if you have a speech and you want to go ahead and convert that to text, so this is something what you can go ahead and use. Then you have my speech translation. So again, we talk about translation. So when you talk about translation, you can actually go ahead and translate a speech from one language to another language. And this is something which is a part of my speech API, right? Now talking about the language. So as far as my language is concerned, again, this is a part of my cognitive services. And there are main 4 areas what we talk about. One is my text analytics. When you talk about my text analytics, we talk about analysis of my text. Then you have my translated text. So as far as my translated text is concerned, again, this is used for translating from one language to another language. Then you have something called my language understanding, or LUIS. So I already gave you an example of LUIS. Then you have my Q&A maker, which is a part of bot services. And this is what we have when we talk about my bot framework or bot services. So we have my Q&A maker, which is kind of built on the FAQ documents or URLs or product manual if you have. So in case you want to go ahead and kind of automate things wherein people will ask questions and then you will go ahead and get the answers from bot. So this is something what you can do with my Q&A maker, right? So of course, this is a pretty big thing. And then, you know, I'll actually go ahead and also show you something. So this is my tutorial. Actually, I will just search for the tutorial. And I think this is what you can use to go ahead and see what it can do, right? Let's just wait for this to open. The site is kind of big. So in case you want to go to this, you can go to qnamaker.ai and you can see for yourself how easy it is to go ahead and design and develop services, right? So this is an example of how we work with this. So there's no coding required. There's nothing required. You can just go ahead and kind of use this service. So you see, you can chat in more than 50 languages. So you have Q&A maker, which is a part of bot services, along with my translation. So you can use language understanding, bot service, Azure search as a part of collective set of services, which you can use in order to go ahead and fetch your information, right? So this is my Q&A framework. And this is an example of my Q&A framework wherein I can order a pizza using my question and answers using this bot, right? So in this example, you see that a person is asking what do you have, and he gets 3 options, and based on the option, he can order. So, you know, you save a lot of money. So the question is, how do you save money? Because you don't need a person to take the order now. So you can use cognitive services. Within the cognitive services, you can use bot services. And within the bot service, you can actually go ahead and use this Q&A maker, which can actually help you out, automate a lot of things. I gave you an example of help desk. So as far as my help desk is concerned, my help desk can actually go ahead and raise a ticket for you based on the questions and answers what you have, right? So this is what we have. Now, the other service what we talk about is my decision making. So as far as my decision making is concerned, you can use the service to detect offensive content. Like I gave an example of Facebook. So if you have unwanted images or there is a text which you don't want to be there on your website, or there's something which is racist or maybe adult, which you don't want to be of there. So again, you can use decision making, and then you can use these services which are there in my AI. Now, let me just actually go ahead and show you a few examples. So AI. Okay, so first things first, I'll show you a few services which are there. Search. So this is a part of cognitive services. So if I go in here, so you'll see what all things you can go ahead and do. So I can click on create, and it will give me an option to select these services from the marketplace, right? So you see how easy it is. I don't need to go ahead and code anything. I don't need to go ahead and do anything. I just go ahead and get the service. So this is my template, get the service template, I would say, and then just go ahead and deploy the service. So this is my web app bot. So in case you want to go ahead and implement a chat on your website, so you can use this. Then you have my bot channel registration. Then you have my Bing search, custom search, in case you want to go ahead and implement search on your website, so you can use my custom search. Then you have my auto suggest. Then you have something for my machine learning. So you have my data science virtual machine for Linux. So this is for my data science. In case you want to go ahead and see more services, you can actually go ahead and see more services in here. So there are a lot of things what you can talk about as far as this is concerned. There's a machine learning studio, which is classic. So this is a part of cognitive services. Now, if you want to go ahead and see the few other services, so let me just show you. Again, it takes me in here for the image. And then again, I can go ahead and search the service. So if I want to go ahead and deploy machine learning for my image, so I can go ahead and see that. Let me just actually go ahead and see a few other services in here. So for bot, we just have to. Let me see if I have more in here, which is a part of cognitive services. So you see, I have a lot of other services. So this is my computer vision. This is my Bing search, content moderator. So you can use this as a service now. You don't have to write a complete set of code, like I said. So if you talk about facial recognition, you can use this. Let me just check if I can deploy a service and show you. This is for my analytics. This is for my translator text. This is for my ink recognition. So this is something which is in preview. So they wanted to actually go ahead and recognize your handwriting, shapes, and document layout. So they introduced this. So previously we had OCR scanners, right? So this is very similar to the OCR scanner. Then you have the language understanding. So there are a lot of things what we talk about as far as this is concerned, right? So let me just see which service I can deploy. I would definitely not be able to deploy it full, but I just wanted to show you that how easy it is to go ahead and deploy this. So if I go ahead and click on speech, so there are different plans what we have. So I go ahead and click on create. So you have to specify a name. So this is my test speech. Then you have the subscription. This is the region where I want to go ahead and deploy. So I'll go ahead and deploy in Southeast Asia, which is Singapore. And then I can go ahead and choose plans. So these are my plans. So you have the plans. So I have the standard. So this is for 20 concurrent request. And this one is for 1 concurrent request. So this is my free. So I will go with the free plan. So F0, and I want to go ahead and put this in a resource group. So this is my test RG, which is my resource group. And I go ahead and click on create. So this is my speech service, what I just deployed, which is a part of cognitive services. And this takes around 2 minutes to deploy. Let's just wait and I will show you a few options. So the idea is it's very easy now to go ahead and use these services. You don't have to go ahead and write the complete set of code, and you can just go ahead and deploy, right? So if you want to go ahead and use this, so these are the keys, the endpoint, and if you want to go ahead and connect this to a virtual network, you can. Then these are the ways to go ahead and monitor. Of course, I don't have an application which I can connect to this and show you how this speech works. But then the idea is, when you talk about the service, the only reason I deployed this is because I wanted you to understand and see for yourself that there is no coding required. When you go ahead and use these keys, connect your application, it will start going ahead and using this speech service. And then we did talk about a lot of things what my speech service can do. So going back to my slide, this is the list of speech. So it does the speech, speaker recognition, the Bing speech, custom speech, translator. So you can use this service for all these things, right? Of course, you have different services to go ahead and deploy different things. But yes, these are few of these services which you can go ahead and use, and you can deploy your solution. Now, I will also quickly show you a Q&A maker. We don't have much time left, but still I think we have time to show you the Q&A maker. Of course, I will not be able to deploy that, but I will try to show you if I can show you where you upload the Q&A questions and answers. So this is my handle. And I will put this in the same resource group wherein I have the speech service, and I will go with the free plan. And you see, this is the template which you can go ahead and check. So you want this in C or Node.js. So whichever you are comfortable with, so you can use this. And this is a set of questions in case you want to go ahead and integrate this with language understanding, you can do that. If you want to go ahead and implement a virtual assistant, so there is a template which you can go ahead and use. So you see, this is my template for virtual assistant. So again, if you talk about using the template for virtual assistant, so you can just create your virtual assistant yourself without any knowledge of coding. Maybe it will take you 4 hours, 5 hours to go ahead and create a virtual assistant. But then the idea is you would have never thought that you can actually go ahead and create your own virtual assistant and then work with that, right? So this is what we have as far as my bot services are concerned. Plus, apart from this, we have a lot of other services in case you want to go ahead and test these services yourself. You're free to test these services yourself. You have to go ahead and register an account in Azure for free. And just to give you an understanding, how do we do that? So this is the account which we can actually go ahead and do. I'll actually send you this in the chat. So this is the account which we can, this is the link which we can use to go ahead and register the account. And this will work, right? Okay, so going back to my slides, I'm sorry, I closed it. And it's already time, so these are few of the trainings what we are doing. So Siddhanta is with me, and Lena is also with me. In case you have any questions on the batch, upcoming batch, you can just ping Siddhanta or Lena, and I will now take the questions on which you might have. Give me 1 second, let me just get the chat window. For some reason, okay, I can see the chat window now. Okay, so yes, we'll take the questions now. And let me just, before we take questions, let me just stop recording, because I don't think so we need the questions for recording.